Back in the 50s, it must have been so much easier for Elvis fans. You bought the records, you went to the movies. If you were in the States, you switched on the telly or went to see a show. Even the Canadians got to see Elvis in 1957. But then Elvis died and it got so much more complicated. We found out that quite a few concerts from the 50s had been recorded and all the TV shows survived. In the 80s, we even learned that Elvis had recorded himself at home. What I'm going to do in this video is show you how to get as much as possible of the 50s material in the fewest number of discs. That's outtakes, live recordings and home recordings, and of course the master recordings, all on CDs of course. It all started back in 1953 of course, when one fine day Elvis popped into Sun Records to record an acetate for his own private use. One side had My Happiness, the other side That's When Your Heartaches Begin. And who would have thought that many years later the acetate itself would be rediscovered and turn out to be not only playable but even listenable. It first appeared on the 1990 album Great Performances, and it's been released several times since. You can find both sides of that acetate on this 3 CD set here, A Boy from Tupelo, along with the second acetate that Elvis made later that same year, 1953. And on the first 2 CDs, it has all the recordings that Sam Phillips made professionally of Elvis that have survived. I'm sure there were more on tapes that have been destroyed or lost or whatever over the years. So you've got all the master recordings of those famous Sun tracks on here, plus a few outtakes and a little bit of dialogue and incomplete versions here and there. And then on disc 3, you've got live performances from that period, ranging from Elvis, Scotty and Bill's first appearance on the Louisiana Hayride in October 1954, right through to a late 1955 live version of I Forgot to Remember to Forget. By the time Elvis, Scotty and Bill made that first appearance on the Hayride, they'd been performing for about 3 months together, and they'd done just a couple of dozen gigs, so they weren't that experienced really. Still pretty raw, pretty early Elvis there, with the first 2 live recordings that we have recordings of, That's All Right and Blue Moon of Kentucky. Another couple of releases that you can turn to for this period are one on the Memphis Recording Service label called Complete Works 53 to 55. There's not very much live material on that, but it does contain all those studio Sun masters and sessions. And if you do want to go live, another great release you can look out for is this one here. This is also on the MRS label. It's called the Complete 1950s Live Recordings. So all the ones that we've just talked about, the ones on A Boy from Tupelo, they're also included on this set here, and more. 1956, of course, was the year Elvis made it big. And if we just stay with live recordings for a moment, sticking with this particular CD set, because it does run on into 1956, and I'll just quickly show you what's going on here. It's a 3 CD set in a fold-out cover, and it's a budget package, but it's a really nice set. And given the origins of the material on here, the sound quality is very good. So once we've got out of the Sun era, on CD2 you've got an Elvis performance from Las Vegas at the New Frontier Hotel, a performance at Little Rock, Arkansas, the 2 shows that he did in Tupelo in 1956. Then you've got Elvis, Scotty and Bill's last performance at the Hayride on the 15th of December 1956. And then you've got what it calls Canadian fragments, so little snippets of songs that were recorded in Canada live in 1957. Another place you can go to for that final Hayride concert is this box here, The Young Man with the Big Beat. This contains everything that Elvis did in 1956. And with the live 3 CD set, you also get this really nice booklet, which has quite a bit of information, quite a few pages in it. I'm not going to go through all the pages now, but it's got a couple of dozen, about 36 pages in there. So it's a really good value set, is that. Of course, Elvis began recording straight away in January 1956 when he moved to RCA, and you can find everything he did in the studio on another MRS release called Studio Sessions 56. Now, I've recently ordered that set. I'm waiting for it to come in. So if I do get it before I upload the video, I'll just show you what it looks like at the end. Just a final word on this 3 CD Live in the 50s set. It was released earlier with an enclosed booklet, a more lavish package than this one here. But there is one thing I've just noticed that's different about this set that you might want to keep in mind. The last song on the set is I Forgot to Remember to Forget from 1955. This is one that also appears on the Boy from Tupelo set, but it does say here that this version here is a 2023 remaster. The Boy from Tupelo set came out several years earlier. Now, I haven't compared them yet. I haven't had a chance to compare them, but it will be interesting to see how much better that version of I Forgot to Remember to Forget sounds on this version here. If it sounds any better at all, that is. Staying with 1956, that was the year when Elvis made his TV debut, again as early as January, and it was arguably TV that made Elvis. We've been able to hear Elvis's TV performances on record since the old bootlegs in the 1970s. You can now get all of them on one 2 CD set. Well, you can get it on 2 LPs if you can still find this. This is the original release from 2017, a Record Store Day release. It also includes the Frank Sinatra show as well, not just the 50s TV shows. This one also has a really nice booklet on the inside there. I think it's stuck inside the cover. But it's very nicely done. They also released a 2 CD set at that time, 2017, in a really, I think it was in like a hardbound cover with a booklet inside. Then last year they released it again in this card cover, small card cover with a booklet. The booklet is not quite as thick as the live performances one. This has 24 pages, but again, it's very good quality. Also comes with a picture disc designs, as does the live set as well. They're all different designs, each disc. This one, the television one, also has something which you might be interested to know about. The Frank Sinatra Timex TV show recordings sound a lot better than they have done before. They apparently have found an acetate. So this is the 2023 remaster from recently discovered acetate, and I can tell you it does sound fantastic. So certainly if you don't have the original version, you might want to pick this one up. We're still not quite finished with 1956. On December the 4th, Elvis popped into the Sun recording studios again, this time an international megastar, where he bumped into Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Johnny Cash. Sam Phillips, or somebody, started the tape rolling, and many years later, the recording was released as the $1 Million Quartet. The only $1 Million Quartet issue I have, or release I have, is this one here. It's a bootleg LP. It doesn't contain the full session, but it's got quite a lot. It's got enough for me, to be honest with you. And often you'll see this picture cropped with the young lady at the end there taken off. This woman was apparently Elvis's girlfriend, a woman called Marilyn Evans. You can now get a lot more $1 Million Quartet on CDs. I'm not entirely certain if everything has been released, but you can get a lot more than what's on this LP here. There are also several other LPs out there. I said we'd finish with 1956, but we haven't quite finished with it because, of course, in 1956, Elvis made his first movie. He became a movie star as well in 1956. It was all happening that year, wasn't it? So yeah, Elvis made 4 movies in the 50s before he went into the army. And as well as the regular soundtrack recordings, in recent years there have been many outtakes released on various labels. I think the best place to get this material is on this set here. It's another MRS release, Elvis The Complete 50s Movie Masters and Session Recordings. This is a 5 CD set. It comes packaged in this hard case, and it's got a 200-page book stuck to the inside there. Now I believe that the 2 sets we've looked at, the TV set and the live set, were released in this way initially a few years ago. Anyway, just having a quick look in here, you've got 2 CDs on the front there, then you've got the book which contains photos, a lot of photos. Can't possibly go through all this. It's got there is plenty of text in there as well, and then at the back of the book there you've got all the information about what's on there. And there are the other 3 discs at the back. I will say I don't especially like this style of release. It's not so easy to read the book, and I've got disc 3 there at the back. So if I want to listen to disc 3, I've got to take discs, in this case disc 4 and 5, out of the way. So it's a little bit inconvenient, but I mean, you can pick this up fairly cheaply. 5 CDs with a 200-page book in a nice hard case. You can't go wrong with this. And this, I think, pretty much contains all the stuff that you can get on all those FTD sets, like the Jailhouse Rock FTD sets. It's all here, all that binaural stuff. The Love Me Tender, the stereo versions. What else you got? Loving You, tons of outtakes from Loving You on here. And King Creole, well, there's not much, there aren't many outtakes from King Creole, but I think King Creole, it's all here. Moving into 1957, things started off pretty much as they'd ended in 56, with Elvis on TV, making his final appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. He'd go on to make a couple more movies that year. There would be more concerts as well, although not at quite the pace that he'd been doing them in 1956. And of course, he'd continue to make hit records. One essential CD you need from this period is this one here, FTD's Elvis's Golden Records. On the first disc, you've mainly got the hits, which were mostly from 1956, but it's disc 2 that's the really interesting one here. It contains the sessions for Blueberry Hill, That's When Your Heartaches Begin, Have I Told You Lately That I Love You, and I Beg of You, which I believe you can't find anywhere else on official releases at any rate. In the spring of 1957, Elvis would record his first Christmas songs. They would be released a few months later as Elvis's Christmas album, along with 4 gospel songs he'd recorded earlier in 1957. The album I would recommend you get for the Christmas material and the Peace in the Valley material is FTD's Elvis Christmas album, the 7-inch classic version. The reason for that is because there are no outtakes basically of the Christmas material, but there are outtakes of the gospel recordings, the 4 songs which appeared on the Peace in the Valley EP. And in the case of 2 songs, Peace in the Valley and It Is No Secret, you get the entire session on the FTD 7-inch classic CD, which you can't get on any other official release. So unfortunately I don't have it, I can't show it to you. I had an opportunity to get it just a few days ago, and sadly I missed it. But yeah, FTD's Elvis's Christmas album is the way to go, I think, for the Christmas and gospel EP material. Another release to look out for is the FTD version of A Date with Elvis. That one contains the Is It So Strange session. It also contains some home recordings as well, but it's not essential for the home recordings, as I'll mention in a moment. Then, when Elvis went into the army, at one point he made a quick session in 1958 to record a few hit singles. And if you want to get the outtakes from that particular session, then you've got to go here, the FTD version of Elvis's Gold Records Volume 2. This is an absolutely fantastic set. as well as all the LP masters. You've got outtakes of Don't You Think It's Time. You've got the entire session for Big Hunk of Love, Ain't That Loving You Baby, I Need Your Love Tonight, A Fool Such As I, and I Got Stung. It's also got the Elvis Sales EP. But tons of stuff on here that you can't find on any other official releases. So once Elvis went into the army, we thought that was it. There were going to be no more recordings until he came out in 1960. But a lot of home recordings have emerged from this period. And one such home recording was done at the home of a friend. I don't know how to say this guy's name. Is it Eddie Fadal or Eddie Fadal? I'm not sure. Somebody help me out with that, please. You can actually find the recording on another MRS release called Off Duty with Private Presley. I don't have that one, but I'm on the lookout for it. And if I find it one day at a good price, I'll pick it up. You can also find that recording on bootleg LPs, Forever Young, and a CD called Homemade Recordings. Once Elvis was in Germany, he made quite a few recordings, and you can also find those on an MRS release called Made in Germany. I believe everything is on there. You can also find some of the German recordings on the A Date with Elvis FTD CD, which I mentioned before. And you've also got some as well, yeah, on this one here. This is the FTD version of For LP Fans Only, which contains about 9 or 10 recordings made in Germany. Just a couple of notable releases to finish off with. I don't have this one, but there's a CD called The Home Recordings, which I believe is the only place you can find a recording done at Elvis's Audubon Drive address in 1956, where you can hear Elvis singing When the Saints Go Marching In. And another release, which is an excellent source of 1950s live material and home recordings, is this one, which came out way back in 1985, Elvis, A Golden Celebration. It doesn't contain everything, but this one contains a really good sampler, a good sample of live TV and home recordings. This was essential back in 1985. Well, unfortunately, I'm still waiting for my complete 56 sessions CD set to come. I want to get this video uploaded, so I'll save that for another day. However, I have remembered, luckily, one other release that you might want to get hold of if you want a complete set of Elvis 50s material. And it's one that came out very recently. A friend of mine sent this to me not long ago. It's another one on the Memphis Recording Service label. This one is what they call a single EP, On Fire in Toledo, 1956, recorded November the 22nd, 1956. A live recording. The artwork is very simple. It's just this thin card cover. The disc does have a different photo on it. Very stylish. It only has 3 songs. There are some spoken parts at the beginning. It's got Heartbreak Hotel, Long Tall Sally, and an incomplete version of Don't Be Cruel. The sound quality, like a lot of the 50s live recordings, it's not great, but it really does have a great atmosphere. You do get a feel for what Elvis shows, well, you get a little bit of a feel for what Elvis's shows must have been like at the time. A lot of screaming, Elvis playing around with the audience, not with jokes, but just the way he sings the songs. Great versions of Heartbreak Hotel and Long Tall Sally. The sound comes and goes in the middle, but as I say, you definitely get a feel for it, for the atmosphere there. Don't Be Cruel comes in partway through. The sound quality is not as good on that one. In fact, it's borderline unlistenable. But yeah, if you can pick this up for a good price, it's definitely worth it for Heartbreak Hotel and Long Tall Sally. Okay, so that's my sort of summary of how to get as much Elvis stuff as possible from the 1950s on as few discs as possible. One of these days I might have a go at doing this for the 1960s. It'd be quite a tough challenge. But once we get into the 1970s, I think it would be a case of doing it year by year. But that's it for now. Any comments or questions, please drop them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Take care. Cheers.